Alright, yo, what is up? This is the DevineYGO channel, and this is Houa, and he just got first place at our OKC regional. Playing, and he was playing what deck?
White Forest Azamina.
White Forest Azamina.
60 card pile.
60 card pile. Gosh, is that normal?
It's not very normal actually. It's very abnormal. Radical actually too.
Okay. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into this deck profile.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna start off with the highest impact of my main engine. The LZ Azamina of the White Forest.
Do you mind if we flip it?
Oh yes, I keep forgetting that.
You're good. You're good.
And then the 3 LZ of the White Forest, the 3 Estellars, the 3 Sylvies, and the 3 Rusias. So these are all main engine. The best one to actually see in your beginning hand would be the Sylvie, because the rest can serve as extenders, except for the Estellars. So these two over here are your best starters, and then these are your best extenders. So it's always good to see one of this combine with one of these.
Okay.
Because there's so much you can go into your extra deck with. You can make Dugares, you can make do a lot of synchros, and set up for that.
So how do you feel about the new cards coming in for the White Forest deck?
Yeah, so this is a huge power play card. If they negate your Sylvie, negate your LZ, because they usually want to Ash your LZ or Ash your Sylvie. If they don't have Inform or Veiler, then that's when you extend. You're able to extend with these. So you want to kind of show off your LZ first to get rid of the Ash. And then if you have other extenders like this, you can special summon or special summon. This allows you to fusion summon as well. So as long as you have one of these two components, the White Forest deck is not actually a 1-card starter, it's actually a 2-card starter deck. And so you have to be careful about your resource management and baiting the negates. Moving on to the spells and traps. 3 Tales of the White Forest. The reason why I run 3 is because if you only see one of your main starter or extender of White Forest, then this can help you get to the next one. So if they negate it twice, then you can actually bring out one of your extenders out by just simply having one of your White Forest monsters on the field. Very needed. It's also a resource management for you, because you can pitch these and we pretty much bring them back to the board so that you're not losing any resources. Woes, Scourge, and Simple Spoils of the White Forest. This one is an alright card, but it's still needed because you never know when you might get locked out from Bird or from Shifter. So if you set up correctly, then you can still book on their turn, booking the monsters on their turn. Again, also resource management. This one counts as a Simple Spell and a White Forest. So usually I search for this as my second target search, because you can send this off for Houa Xiong, and you can also set up a disturbance during your opponent's turn. This is actually pretty much very useful for 3 parts, because it comes back if you send it for cost. And interrupt your opponent with Guardian Chimera, or search for it and then just use it for Houa Xiong if you need to. This one, I didn't really see it pop off. I didn't see it come on at all. I think my win conditions were pretty strong without this card, but again, it does set up some, it makes my opponent a little bit anticipated in terms of what they can do, because when I search for this through my forgot her name, but whenever you grab this, whenever you grab this and they know that this is a negate by just tributing off one of your synchro White Forest or one of your single monsters, they don't want to actually spend their expensive card, their high impact card on you, because they know that it's going to be negated. So you do set up a counter against them when you search for this.
Okay.
Would you ever think about cutting this at all?
Tails, I mean Wolves?
Wolves.
I've thought about it, but it's just too good, I think, to set up that opponent's turn disruption. A lot of players are cutting this out because they are running Aphis, which is also another White Forest card, but this one I think gets around those locks I'm talking about, like the draw lock and also the shifter locks. So you can actually play during their turn and disrupt them. So it's like a back and forth disruption between them. Going into the wanted or the simple spoil cards, of course 3 Black Witch, 3 of the Witch Searchers, 3 Deception. And then you have the 1-ups over here, or 2-ups actually. You have 2 Susurus, 1 Morian, 1 Subdual, and 1 Diabel. So this card, I'm just going to start out with, I didn't see this card at all because I didn't need to go into it. So this might be something you can take out, but if you do notice that your opponent plays a lot of dominance cards or hand, like the actual hand traps, then you want to get this out on the field first because it stops them from impulsing you, from just negating your stuff. So the 3 witches, you want to see these as often as you can. So that's why I run 6 of these. Because ultimately you want to get this one. And so these are the 2 ways of getting to this card here. And then I run 2 Susurus because I run a lot of spellcasters, and because Witch can dump a spellcaster or an illusion. If they try to imperm or bailor you, you can bounce one of your monsters back, your target, your Black Witch, or any of your spellcasters or illusion, and dodge the imperm or bailor. And if they run the Bistio against you, it doesn't really work because this one doesn't target the card that you summon back from the graveyard or banish. So you can still bring out the banished monster back. So their Bistios are useless against you at that point.
Okay.
Morian, it's a Book of Moon. It's really great because you can shut off their, pretty much their material that they would need to special summon, use for special summoning. Great against Engravers, great against Lacrima, great against any monsters that's needed to rank up or level up. And because it has the effect where you can set it, if you have a level 5 or higher illusion monster, you can send this as cost for material, or send it away and then bring it back afterwards. So again, this is resource management here. Susurus is the same thing too. Subdual is a little bit different. Subdual can bring out the Diabels during your opponent's turn. It can also bring out Queen Azamina and also your Elzette. I mean, I don't think, no, just these 2. But the actual important fact is that you can banish this from your graveyard to bounce one of your face down cards back to your hand, and then if you want to, you can set a spell trap card. It doesn't seem like it's that great, but when you combine it with Mo Regina, where if you respond to a simple spell card and destroy up to 2 cards, it's really powerful during your opponent's turn, serves as a disruption. And you can, there are times where you summon the Black Witch and you already have your Wanted and your Deception, and you can set like your Susurus. Of course, this is a quick play, so you cannot activate it, but if you have this in your graveyard, you can banish this, return this from the field back to your hand. Now it's live. So you, any of your quick plays or your trap cards, or just your quick play spells can be live with this in the graveyard.
Okay.
Good question.
Yep.
Has this ever been good in time for you? Because if I recall correctly, if you have like an Azamina monster out,
yes,
like you can like burn for 15 or
yes,
something, right?
you can burn your opponents for 15, and it's not technically a burn, it's you make them lose. And so even if you did Dark Ruler No More, it gets around that condition of you can't inflict damage to your opponent. So you can definitely combine this with Dark Ruler No More just because of that. However, I didn't win any of my games through to time. I mostly won them through a beatdown, beating them down. So that never really popped up, but I'm sure there are cases where it has in the past for me.
Okay, that's fair. Well, that's crazy. That actually works through Dark Ruler?
Yes.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Here is my Azamina package. So 1 Queen, 2 Hollowed, 2 Debtors, 2 Determination, and 1 Aphis. This card is treated as a White Forest card, so it could be in this pile or that pile, but it's really a search where you can bounce if you manage to summon a lot of your synchros or your fusion monsters. Then this would be really great impact for you because you can bounce a whole bunch of monsters back. I'm on 2 of each of these because they are what I call the cheat creator cards, where you can easily access your extra deck for your Azamina monsters by sending your Sinful Spell cards or by returning them from your banish or graveyard. Queen Azamina is always treated as a Sinful Spell card, so it adds a +1 to whatever you need, and if it's sent to the graveyard by one of these, it comes back into the field as another resource, so it's another +1 for you to send again for that turn. So it's really great on that. Determination, you can banish this card from your graveyard if you didn't use this effect already to reset one of your Sinful Spell trap cards. So if you had to pitch this off and then use Wanted, and then you have Holla Azamina, you can banish this, return you want it, and then fuse up with that.
Another question.
Yes.
So I see that you played Debtors. Could you just explain quickly why you decided to play the 2?
Oh, yes. So I thought about 3, but you know, I don't know. I don't want to see 3 like too much of these. So I run 2, and they're great for disruption on your opponent's turn, and they're also great on quick playing on your turn. So if your opponent is responding to your simple spoil cards, you can actually use this and send that off, and then bring out your Azamina monsters. There's also a really great effect in the graveyard where you can banish this card to summon an Azamina card from your graveyard. This could be any of your fusion, and Queen Azamina, or even your LZ Azamina of the White Forest. This is a really powerful sub-engine, the toy engine. Very much needed, because the White Forest is really a deck of economics, and these are +1, +2, +3 cards. So if you get one of these, you get so many pluses. So I max these out as much as I can. Toy soldiers get you to these cards. Again, it's a +1 and then a +2, +3, +4. So you want to utilize all your resources as much as you can. Toy tank, it's another body for your search, but it's also great for optimizing if you want to summon from your graveyard or from your hand. So it's really great for doing that. It's also level 4 that you can use to exceed summon with. Toy Magician, I didn't see pop up at all, honestly. So it's very flex. You can, if you want to side things out, you take this out. But otherwise, you can also search for this or set this through Toy Box. And the reason why is that the new Magistus Chorozo requires so many conditions. One of its optimal conditions to summon it is through sending a spellcaster card, monster card, or a pretty much extra deck monster.
Okay.
So even if this is face down, it is still counted as a spellcaster monster card. So you can contact this out with any of your synchro, link, exceed, if you need to go to Chorozo.
Is Chorozo the whole reason why you decided to play the Magician?
Yes, Chorozo is one of the reasons. And Chorozo is really great because if you're not able to access your White Forest stuff because you only have your Azamina or your Simple Spoil stuff, and your opponent has negated pretty much your stuff to access your White Forest, then this is kind of like the last attempt to get into your White Forest stuff. Yeah.
So it just gives you another
option to get into the engine. Yep.
Gotcha.
So, another question: if you had the chance to go back in time and take out the Toy Magician, what do you think you would rather have played in for it?
I thought about running some more utility cards. I've also thought about going back to my Invoke build with that, just adding Invocation, taking that out, and then changing my extra deck a little bit for that engine to set up more negates. So yeah, that's probably what I would do. And then these are my support cards, my utility cards. Huge impact as well. So the thrust, very much needed. One talent, you might be able to do more than one, but I think having one should be sufficient. You could do 1 or 2. Thrust is very important because it does not care if your opponent activates your opponent's monsters during the battle phase or during the draw phase. You still get to search or set depending on what's on the field, and you can set Woes of the White Forest and then perform that disruption during your opponent's turn. You can set Determination, again that disruption during your opponent's turn, and if you didn't have like Tails of the White Forest, you can set Tails and then send it off as cost for one of your White Forest monsters or even the Magician's Soul, and that spell card is now live because it's no longer the same card. So this is a great way to optimize your spells and traps from the deck.
Okay.
The Magician's Souls is really great. Again, going back to the discussion of game economics, you can pitch your simple spoils, spells and traps, your toy magicians, or just your toy engines in general, and be able to get the draw from that. And it's also a great way to bait out the Veilers and the Imperms, and even the Ashes. So if you send 2, and you know they're going to come back, then your opponent now has to consider, do I want to give my opponent a +2? Or do I want, what is my consideration now, right? So
Yeah.
it makes it harder for them to kind of figure out where do I want to use my hand traps on. Because a +2 and a gas engine is really dangerous.
Yeah.
Because you know that I'm going to draw more extenders or more main engine cards. So it's really difficult for my opponent to kind of figure out where do they want to disrupt me.
Puts another level of mind games on it.
Yeah, yep, definitely a mind game on them. And it's also a body too that you can use for anything that you want to. Not for the synchro summons, but the link summons. Nightmare Apprentice is a optimizer. Searches for any illusion by sending a card. So you can search for Queen Azamina, you can search for Diabels of the original Sinful something. You can also search for the LZ Azamina, so the new level 2. If you don't have your extender already available in your hand, this can be your extender to search for that. And then you can perform your fusion or synchro summon, depending on what's on the board and how everything is happening. And lastly, the Harpy's Feather Duster. I mean it just because Malice and Rizio, there's so much back row right now for them. And they don't often have a lot of negate set up. So you want to clear the back row as much as you can so that you don't have to be facing 2 or 3 more interruptions. Especially against Rizio, if you get rid of the field spell, then you have one less negate to worry about. Plug-in, same thing. As long as you're getting rid of those cards, then you don't have to worry about them.
Okay.
So you said the Nightmare Princess is a good extender to get further extensions.
Yes.
So how come you didn't max out on this?
The reason why I don't max out on this is because it doesn't, the sending as a cost is not really a activated effect. And so it does not trigger any of your simple spoil cards. So you will not be able to recur them back. And then if your opponent decides to Impermanent Veiler it, then you've lost 2 resources, right? So that's why I opt for 1. I don't want to see more of this. I want to see less of this. I want to see more of my other extenders, main deck extenders, and main deck engine cards.
Okay, that's fair.
And then, so you say that these help you draw stuff, and we know that you played a 60 card pile at tournament day. So the big question I was always thinking in my head when you were playing, did you ever just draw into things that you felt like you didn't need this now? Or did you always feel like the cards that you drew off of talent or off of soul, you felt like, okay, you know, I could use this in this way?
Yeah, definitely. I've drawn cards where it's just, most of the time, it was, I would say like about 80%, 90% of the time they were useful during that turn that I drew them.
Okay.
The only time that it wasn't was the one-offs, and the one-offs are what you don't want to see too often. And when that happens, it can be difficult for that. But that's why you max out on your engines and extenders. Now this card can also, the only target for this to pitch is the Bellstar Black Witch. But you can always, if you have Susurus of the White Forest, or Susurus of the Simple Spoils, you can bounce this back, bring out your Black Witch. So it's a great way to search for your Black Witch. Extra deck here. This is my synchros. So 1 Sylvie, 1 Severa, 1 Roselia, 1 Diabel, and 1 Chaos Angel. I would say the greatest impact for my games has been this card, because as long as your opponent's monsters are booked, they can't use it really for anything. And right now the format is heavy on Link and Exceed Summoning. So if it's a fusion, then this might not be so impactful, but since those are the 2 main decks, this has really been impactful, and you can bring this out multiple times in a turn too and still trigger her effects.
How would you be able to make it multiple times in one turn?
Yeah, so if you Woes is the trap card that I was talking about, you can use Woes on your opponent's turn. You can also use Diabel, so you can cheat her out by just pitching Spell Trap card. So that's 2 ways to do it. There is a third way that we will go into with a Bao Q, where you can pitch a card, banish her, and then bring out this. So you can bring her out 3 times with that. And then if you are able to get into Celine, then that's 4 times that you can bring out.
Oh my god.
Rusia is a very great optimizer. Most of my opponents, they don't want me to search for my support cards. They will try to negate this, but oftentimes they forget that I have the Sylvie or Roselia in my graveyard, and I can just bounce it back and return it to the extra deck and dodge the Impermanent Veiler. if they beat you, your Sylvie or your Rusilia. So if you activate this, they chain Imperm, you activate Rusilia and they turn Beast Shield and they banish your White Forest monster that will be bouncing this back. The game requires it to resolve as much as possible, right? And so if they banish your target in the graveyard, your monster in the graveyard, this still is bounced back to the deck to the extra deck because you have to resolve as much as possible. Because the Beast Shields are not negating the activation, you can still dodge Imperm by that. So that's a great tool for you. Going into my Azamina extra deck, Saint Azamina has been one of the most high impactful cards for my deck. My strategy, every time I go into this, I usually win because it's easy to cheat this out. 4,000 defense, 0 attack, but you don't really need the attack for this monster because you set it in defense anyways. And this sets up
defense is insane.
yeah, and it stops part of the meta, most of the meta deck, if they target cards on their field or in their graveyard or in their banish. So a lot of meta decks right now are targeting their own stuff. So Saint Azamina is a really great way to stop them from doing that. It's a really great tool against Fiendsmith too. So if they run the Fiendsmith engine, then you pretty much shut that off. And then I run one Azamina Mo Regina, one DevineYGO, one El Sylvia, and one, however you may pronounce this, Soul. So you have two options whenever you send two. You can either go into Saint Azamina or Mo Regina, depending on what the build is like. But usually Saint Azamina, because you can bring out Mo Regina afterwards. So Saint Azamina on that turn that was fusion summon can bring out any of these by just it's a quick effective summon. So if you want to set up a negate, or if you want to set up more board presence, these two doesn't really have anything whenever they're summoned through Saint Azamina's effect. So I usually don't go into these.
Okay.
Yep, I usually go into these two. With Mo Regina, it's a +1 as well. If you bring this card out, you can bring out any illusion monsters from your graveyard. So one illusion from your graveyard, and if you set up your Queen Azamina, your LZ Azamina, your Diabel of the White Forest, so you have more targets to bring out into, and you have several win conditions at this point. Where do you want to clear your opponent's your opponent's board and attack, or do you want to bring out weak monsters and then attack them? Because Saint Azamina has an effect where it's a continuous effect where if you would take battle damage, they take it instead.
So it's a built-in Mikanko.
Yep.
So you just have a Yubel card within your White
Yubel.
Yubel, yes. So this is a 2-win condition. So you can optimize which one you want to depending on how big their board is on the field. If they have really strong monsters, then you bring out your weakest monsters as possible and then just crash into it and then deal that damage to them.
So you're saying that this card is super defensive. Its quick effect is to summon any of these girls, and it's just a walking you die if I attack instead.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So you can set up it like this, or you can set up like this. And if you set up like this, that means that you are going for victory. Because they have a big board presence, big monsters, and then you just make sure your other monster attack first, and then leave this last to attack.
That's so funny.
This is a great searcher for your Azamina and Simple Spoil cards. Back then, before the new support came out, I always usually search for Simple Spoil cards, but now that the Azamina cards have gotten stronger, I oftentimes try to search for those as well now too. Queen Azamina, for example, or even LZ Azamina of the White Forest.
Okay.
And then I know from experience, playing with those cards. Some of those cards I don't really play. The only one I think I would rather really be playing is the Saint and then the Mo Regina. So would you ever cut the Soul or cut the Soul really? Because the Soul it seems like it's not like the best card, but would you keep that in still, or would you take it?
I will never cut this out. I will keep this because this is the only interruption one of the few interruptions that uses one material to disrupt your opponents on your opponent's turn. And it actually helped me get rid of a Summon Strike.
Oh, okay.
Because I set up, used Hollowed Azamina, and another Simple Spoil card brought this out, negated one of the traps. Hollowed Azamina bounces back to my extra deck, bring this out, activate the back target strike. And of course, my opponent did not want to strike this because they would have to pay life points. And this will be destroyed, of course, but then this is a great spot removal as well. And then during your opponent's turn, whether you summon it before they reach their main phase, you can recur one of your Azamina or Simple Spell card back. So you get you -1 of your opponent's card, and then you +1 on your field as well too for your economics. A lot of people don't run this card just because they don't run the determination or the debtors, so that's why it's appropriate to cut this out if you don't run those cards. But since I run those cards, I need to have more options to disrupt my opponent.
Gotcha. That's fair.
Guardian Chimera, these are the stragglers fusions. Guardian Chimera is great for, there's only one way to bring this out. It is through the Simple Spell of the White Forest. Quick play spell card, allows you to perform a fusion summon, using materials from your hand or field, disrupt your opponent. Yeah, there's nothing really else to do from that. Although if you want to make sure that you don't get Ash, you want to send either your Diabellstar Black Witch or your Saint Azamina during your opponent's turn. Or if it's during your turn, then you Saint Azamina, because you can chain block them by doing chain 1, chain 2, Saint Azamina.
So, quick question. How often did you make this?
Pretty often, if I can set up my my board, or if I can set up, not even my board actually, if I just have like 1 or 2 monsters on my field and 1 or 2 in my hand, if they lock me out some way somehow, then I just set my Simple Spell of the White Forest and then disrupt them on their turn. So that's one way to do it that too as well. And then Magic's Chorozo, I didn't see this pop up at all just because I did not get interrupt to that level where I needed to bring this out. This uses any pretty much extra deck monster and a spellcaster monster card. So it's a contact fusion, again, that we talked about earlier. It's a tuner. So if you have LZ Azamina in your hand and you send one of your extra deck monster and a spellcaster, you can bring this out. And then again, this helps you optimize your field. Then you can special summon LZ Azamina, go into your Ruskilog or Severa, and then go from there.
Okay.
So, just another thing. If you cut out the Toy Magician, would you cut this out too, or would you want to keep this in because of the fact that it's still a utility?
So yeah, before even Toy Magician before it's even in consideration, this has been one of the last resorts to kind of still go into your White Forest engine, or to even search for your Simple Spell card, right? Because if you are running links, exceed monsters, you can't really use them for materials for anything. So this is the way to clear that and to kind of make that more viable again. And then shout out to Dagaris. This is a optimizer for your deck and for your hand. If they lock you out from Synchro, you still have Fusion. If they lock you out from Fusion, you can still go to Synchro, but sometimes you're not able to get into both of them. So this is the way to optimize to set up for your opponent's turn. And here are my 3 links. So SP Leonite is critical because Nibiru is all over the place. So if you can get into SP Leonite as quick as you can, always go into it. Even if it's just using 2 normal bodies, like 2 non-extra deck monsters, go into this as soon as you can. I was locked out from drawing lock, so I couldn't search anymore, and I didn't want to waste my synchro summoning that had no impact. So I'm like, the only interruption that I have left is really just this on my opponent's turn, and it helped me win my game from that.
Okay.
Celine did not show up at all, but yeah, it's a great way to also bring out your Silvera if you needed to. So this is one of 4 methods to recur her to bring her out. A-Bow, of course, I don't have any main deck Fiend monsters, but I do have my Dugaris and Chaos Angel. So usually I optimize first with this, and then I can go into A-Bow. And then from there, if I have A-Bow set up, then I can go into my main engine. So again, there's multiple ways to utilizing A-Bow. Chaos Angel is the same way. I can clear my opponent's board, their spot card removal, or beat down, do both. And then if I feel like I don't have enough of my main engine deck to proceed that recovery for my next turn, then I go into A-Bow. And the A-Bow helps me to bring out my Sylvie or my Diabell or anything that I need to bring out from the graveyard, even the Black Witch. So I managed to bring out the Black Witch card during my opponent's turn and set up for my turn.
Okay.
Quick question.
Yep.
So you say that these are your two fiends that you go into the elbow, right? So then how come you didn't want to try utilizing another fiend target in the name of Babushka?
Okay. Yeah, so Baguska is pretty tricky because you're only slowing down your opponent, and you know that they're running imperm. So if they lock you and then they imperm you, then your Baguska is dead, pretty much. So with that too, because Malice is still a threat, and Malice is very link heavy, Baguska won't stop your opponent really from that. So that's why I do this. And oftentimes this is great because if your opponent locks you, you can still summon from the graveyard. So if they lock you from drawing, you can still summon from the graveyard. This is a great way to optimize. Again, this is a very game economics heavy deck. So Baguska doesn't really help you with that, although you can stall and try to get something from that.
Okay.
And then for my extra deck, the 2 Meows Charmies, the 2 Lancia, Artifact Lancia, 3 Chaos Hunter, 2 XC Encore, 3 Evenly Matched, and 3 Spellbound. So,
Spellbound.
Yeah, so Malice is actually one of my most difficult matchup. So I need to overcompensate by having more anti-cards for them. As you can see, all of these can be sided in against Malice. The only ones I can't are these two, and this is for the Rizio. And then if I play against Rizio, I can actually use these against Rizio as well. So these are very flexible depending on where you're at for that piece. So I don't have to like commit so much one card against one deck only. I can, hey, commit this or commit that and then move these around if I need to.
Okay, that's pretty smart.
Yeah. So this helped me beat Rizio because I didn't know what they were playing. They scooped up. I didn't see what was in their hand whenever I finished my combo. So you don't know what to put in. So I was like, okay, let's do just evenly match for now. And of course I drew into evenly match and I cleared his board, his Rizio board. Yeah.
In a 60 card build too, that's pretty lucky to open up evenly. Very
much. And again, with the optimizer cards that you have in your deck, where you draw 1, draw 2 pitch, draw 1, right? It's really great for getting out these some of your main engines, extenders, or even some of your side cards. So that has happened from your optimization strategy.
Okay, that's fair.
Spellbound won me a game against Rizio Fiendsmith. It was cute. I got Fualo twice. I got nibbed. I had a token and a Baoku because I went to Baoku as my first main extra deck monster. And so after bringing out Dagaris and having 4 bodies, I went to a Baoku. And then I ditched a Baoku to summon one of my graveyard monsters so that it's protected from future nibs and imperms. Otherwise, they would try to nib or imperm you at that point. So it's a great way to also trick them into that.
Okay.
But if they don't, that means you have more recursion. So I had the story was that I had an Baoku, a token, and one face down spellbound, one Morian that was returned from the graveyard, and my opponent goes into their Fiendsmith. They bring out Lacrima, also Fiendsmith Engraver. I booked or Morian their Engraver because I didn't want to see Chaos Angel, so that left them with the Nib monster and face up Lacrima, and then they summoned their Ice Rizio, brought out their Sword Rizio, searched, and then I spellbound locked all of their monsters from being used for any extra deck summon. And so my token has 6,000 defense and 4,000 attack, and A-Bow is at 28. And so I managed to beat, a plus 6 draw card and a nib wipe from that. So yeah, he lost from that.
That's funny. That's so funny.
And then I didn't see this come up at all, but this is primarily useful only for against dwellers. So I didn't want to run the Slayers because Slayers is a bit slow. It's powerful. It's actually very flexible like these cards, but it's not strong that in the case that you can't use it during any of your non main phases, right? So it's very slow. and by that point, it doesn't really even matter if they duel you.
Yeah.
So Encore is really great for that. They can't respond to this, and the main Raizio deck usually run Eclipse too, so you're removing a body, but you're also preventing some of their other effects from like recurring too. So it's a great tool for that, but I didn't see it pop at all. Maybe I should run 3 of this, but we'll see about that. And then I played against so many Malice. I think I played against 3 or 4 of them, and this actually has been the most impactful. Summon during their turn, turn during my turn, just locking them out from doing any of that and having a beat stick. So they can't beat over this because it's very strong. And if you send a Simple Spell or a White Forest card that has the ability to recur itself, what I did was during their turn, I pitched my Tales of the White Forest, summoned this card, and then Tales recurs itself. It returns back because it's used to activate a monster's effect. So that means I didn't lose any resource.
So it's just a free Chaos Hunter.
It's a free Chaos Hunter. Yeah,
That's crazy.
Free Chaos Hunter. Yep. Lancia, the time that I drew it did get crossed out, but luckily my opponent didn't have any recovery from that. So they crossed it out, but they didn't have engine because they run so much hand traps and disruptions that they didn't. They're just like, well, stop that, but I don't have any engines. So I'm like, well, that's great. That means I get to go full power on my turn. Although I would say that I did in one of my Malice matches, I did draw into one of this in my starting hand, and then I optimized, managed to draw another one. So I was solid for like 2 turns.
Dang, lucky.
Meows, similarly, this one was actually very flex because I know that Mermail has been getting tracked and it's been getting powerful. None of these cards really helped me to address the Atlanteans. So, hey, you know, if I'm gonna face up with Malice and possibly Atlanteans, then I need something that's that I can use as well. So this is really a flexible spot as well for that.
So why specifically the Meows over like Furos?
Cause I ain't got no Fuwalos.
That's fair. Okay, that's fair.
I ain't got no Fuwalos. That's why. But a lot of the Fuwalos is already being the decks that run that Fuwalos is good against. These can address those decks already, right? And this one addresses particularly the graveyard, the White Forest, the rogue decks that's out there that summons from the graveyard, so or banished. So this is a great, just a great tool for that.
Okay.
So that Spellbound tech, let's get back to that. That seems
So,
really good.
I wonder how you were able to add that to your side.
I've been testing it, but due to the recommendation of my great friend, here he is, Johnny.
Dang.
Oh, shoot. Okay, cut that out.
Basically, there's a funny story behind this. We recently had a 3v3 at one of our stores here called Wanker's Island.
Yeah.
And what happened was I didn't tell him about it until I showed up with it, and I was like, play these good against Malice. He was like, okay. That was it.
Yep.
That was it.
Yep. Because I was struggling in my extra deck because in a 60 card deck, you have a small chance of seeing these in your beginning hand. So I'm like, I don't want to run Nib. I didn't want to run anything that could be crossed out. And so that's why I opted for things that was harder for my opponent to interact with, right? So like your opponent cannot respond to this. They're not running this. They might not even touch these. And this is probably the only few cards that they can interact with. Everything else was harder to interact with. So yeah, his recommendation really helped against Malice, against Raizio, and because I know that Raizio Mitsurugi is also trending too, this stops your opponent's monsters from being tributed. So if you go second and they set up their board already, and you know they have the trap set, you force them to activate their trap. Otherwise, none of their tributing can't tribute the monsters. So that's a great way to force them to use that trap to stop this card, which is a very low impact at that point, but very high impact for you because your board survives the wipeout that's gonna happen later eventually. But I didn't see any of the Mitsurugi, but I was ready for them for that sense.
So will Spellbound be one of those cards that you keep playing with further in the future while you're playing this deck, or do you feel like once you get some of the more like popular cards like the Molcharmies and stuff, do you plan on maybe putting those in for those, or do you still think Spellbound is gonna be one of those cards that are just like, hey, you know what, this helped me do this and that, so I think I'm gonna just keep it and play it over and maybe putting like 4 hours.
Yeah, so let's talk about some strategies here. Spellbound is actually a really good card for going second, right? The Molcharmies are only good for going first. So there's that consideration. If you're going first, then these cards are no longer useful, so you don't want to put them in. Rather, you want to have a going first card, and you set up against your opponent. Board breakers. So if you're going second, then you usually want to go for these cards here. Right? So these are all your going second cards. Unless you're playing Mitsurugi, Raizio, then this will be a good going second card. But if you're going first, then you want to go for these cards here. So you can optimize here. So that's when you start shifting around, creating that puzzle for going first, going second. So yeah, I'll probably still keep these because these are really powerful for going first, because you know that your opponent's going to try to lock you out from searching, or they're going to wipe your board out. And then that's when you can actually set up against them, and they won't be able to interact with this card.
So personally, my reasoning for not liking Spellbound, I think it's a great card. I think it stuns heavily, but it's like I feel like if you're going first and you don't see it, like during mid game or even late game, I feel like Spellbound the longer the game drags out, I feel like Spellbound gets more and more useless. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I would say that of all of these cards here, maybe like the Chaos Hunter will be the only good ones to draw later into your turn. Maybe these as well. Everything else is like, you better see them.
Okay. Yeah.
You really want to see them first because they have a really great impact. Spellbound, because it's a spell card, you can still use it as a cost for your White Forest, so it's still fodder if you draw them later. But like this card, it's dead. Like you draw this later, you didn't see this in the beginning, and you draw into this, it's dead. These are just board clears, and so they're I would say Spellbound is great for being fodder, for also setting up against your opponent, just because you know the main hand traps that they're going to use against you, and they probably will try to go all out against you because you have a weak board. And until they realize that they can't use their monsters, and so you both have weak monsters on the field for that.
Obviously, for Rizal here, Malice. See its general coverage. Your matchups against Rogue. No issues at all. If you did fight any Rogue.
Yeah, so my main deck is actually really good against Rogue, especially the talents and thrusts. So those are like kind of board breakers and optimizers as well too. So those really helped me against. I played against the Crystron. I think it was match 6. It was either 5 or 6. So it was pretty high tier at that point, where a lot of the players were left. And yeah, so from that, my thrust and talent really came through. That's why I mained them. And just my general strategy to book their monsters and then be able to wipe their board was great for that. So my main deck and my extra deck were pretty built well to handle most Rogue decks.
So what did you actually face? I think it was like, 8 rounds?
Yeah, it was 8 rounds. The first one was Malice. That's when the Toy Magician actually showed up, but of all the matches, that was the only time. And then I went up against, I believe it was Mirror. A lot of people actually played against Mirror on the match 2.
Okay.
So I was one of them. And then Raizio, Malice, Crystron, and then 2 more Malice, and then 1 Raizio as well. So I don't remember the numbers, but I think it was like 3 Malice, 2 Raizio, 1 Crystron, 1 Mirror, and maybe it was more Malice. But yeah.
So you had mostly a lot of meta matches.
Yeah, mostly meta matches. I did not come prepared for Mirror, but thank goodness, my Mirror matches are. They're using like the usual 40 to 43, and so they also run hand traps. So that means that they're they're gonna have less gas and more bricks compared to my deck. So I'm gonna have more gas and less bricks, and that obviously showcased in our final round where he went first, and he only set one card because he drew his one-ofs, and the one-ofs are not good to draw into because those are bricks if you have them first hand. So yeah, so I completely went overboard and just cleared the field on that card. So yeah, so mirror matches. My deck is just built to be more optimal and less bricky. So that's how I won some games. I actually won several games because my opponent bricked.
Okay.
So they either had too much hand traps, no engine, and they set and wait for me to use my resources, and then of course I come back from that, or I set up against them. So I won, I think, 3 games where my opponent bricked.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and then I guess another just a question I'm curious about. So there's been a rise recently in a lot of in mermail players. What's your answer to the hand loops?
This is all I have. Honestly, I think this is all I have. Maybe these, because they do banish stuff. And if they probably won't set up their, unless they do Toad. But honestly, this is all I have against them. Like maybe these. But this is probably my best choice against them for that. If should there be a matchup on that. I used to main the Black Goat last, because if they decide to pitch it away, then you can still use it from the graveyard. But it's not really, I would say I've been very iffy on that just because my Ryza matches have been Dweller mostly, and if I draw that first hand, then I can't use it during that turn because they have already logged out the graveyard. So that's why I opted for Encore instead of the Black Goat Laughs. And just more simple spoil cards and more ways to optimize your hand.
That's the deck profile. Do you want to give any last minute shout outs or anything you want to say?
Yes,
to end the video?
I will give my shout out to Josh.
Johnny.
Johnny.
Dang it, twice now.
Okay, I would like to give my shout out to Johnny and Josh, because they help keep me motivated, and I think they're just not the pestering, but they're like, we want to do good, we want to do well, especially for 3v3. It really kind of pushed me to to be more mindful and thoughtful of how can I be supportive of my partners, and how can I take some of their feedback and make my deck a little bit better, or my side deck a little bit better. Definitely. And just the crew here. So
Josh.
Andy and
Josh.
But yes, and also the Tulsa crew, the local crews that play at Dragon Slayer and at Dice Addictions, and just they're playing against them as well because they play mostly meta, and of course they know how to play against my deck now. So should White Forest Azamina become popular, they will not be ready for that. So we're kind of like just exchanging knowledge and helping each other play better as well. But yeah, so definitely being it's fun at the locals. It's always fun with them. They're not like very critical. They're not those who keep you out from playing. They talk to you, they engage with you. So it's great being in Tulsa with all these buddies and folks here.
But all right, well, thank you for your deck profile and taking the time to come out and just share with us your list and share your experiences, share your knowledge.
I would say though that Meows, because I pulled 2, so I'm like, okay, I guess it's time for me to use them. So yeah, just the side deck was so important in winning some of the main matches, the Chaos Hunters especially, because there were so many Malice at the top matches. So that really helped me to get those wins. But yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you once again for the profile, and I wish you luck on your Nationals run if you
Nationals,
do decide to
YCS,
go, and YCS run.
Worlds maybe. We'll see what happens.
Hey, yo, we see you at Worlds. Okay. But yeah, thank you so much.
Yes.